Catherine Sarah Myers, welcome. So our discussion tonight really is to help people, maybe you're in business or you're working, and to help us, keep calm and have practical solutions to living in this new normal, which just kind of got thrust on us, and really in a matter of 10 days, really. So, we're Catherine, we're seeing people like having to sort of totally redefine their lives and re-engineer in this probably one of the most challenging and dramatic times on earth right now. Right? I was talking to another colleague the other day, and and we said, "What's this like? I don't think we've ever been through anything near this." And the only thing we could think of was the Second World War, and I don't think any of us were on the line tonight were privy to that. I mean, we might have heard stories, but anyway. So it's really, Catherine, it's a time of great opportunity and change, yet it's a time of fear and shock. As I said, within the last 2 weeks, the life as we knew it, and now we can either be in a position of leadership or running a business or in management in an organization. How can we begin to maybe break through some of the emotional impact and let our little inner leader shine a little more brightly?
David, thank you for having me here tonight. Thank you for the guests who've appeared and take the time to be here with us. I'll tell you a little bit about the focus of how I could answer, maybe not your exact question, because the question is all within us. It's within us on how we respond to what's going on. But I'd like to talk about, with my strong psychology background, the reason why we are, why we do, and why we are right here at this moment. So when we think about what is the reason for that, these are exercises that we can do. So I have over decades. I was born in 58, so that just tells you my age. Decades of experience on dealing with people and behavior modification. If we think about how we react or how we act or how we prepare for things, that will say a lot about us. It snows. I'm from New York. When it snowed, people would go to the store and buy milk and eggs because they thought they would never survive, right, David? And then I lived in Montreal, and it was minus 40. And I thought, why isn't everybody running to the store? Because that's what their norm was. That's how they lived. So we respond to things based on our conditioning. Sometimes we're really in tune with something, so we don't feel like it can get to us. So if we're really connected to our why, and I won't go into mine, but I'll tell you that it took me a long time to develop that. And I only truly developed my why in 2014. So it took me, 50 years of working on it. And my why isn't about why I want to help my neighbor. My true why that gets me up every morning, no matter what. So in times of happiness, in times of trouble, in times of despair, we always need to be connected to the reason why we are who we are. And if we're in search for that, if we don't yet know, then let's focus on that in times of happiness and times of despair.
Right.
Because action will take us out of doubt, and doubt will take us out of action. So regardless of what's going around, I had a talk with a friend the other day about they had a flat tire and they could have fallen apart, but they didn't. Sometimes people respond because that's just how they respond. And some people say, I have to do it no matter what. So regardless of what's going on around us, how we internalize it or our external reaction, it really comes from what we have here. This gratitude for ourselves, knowing our why, knowing our reason. If we can tap into that, maybe some of us are into that more than others. Maybe some of us think we are. Maybe some of us don't care.
Right. So starting with asking why make a difference. And to how we do our life, our business, our community?
Say that again.
How does starting with asking why make a difference on how we do our life, our business, and community?
Well, if you're not connected to your why, you tell me. If you do not know your why would you bother to get off the chair or the couch and hold a webinar for 5 people? Why would you do that unless you had a passion and a belief? What if it were one person? It wouldn't make a difference, because if you're passionate and you believe, that's what you're doing. You're doing it regardless, because that is your why.
All right. What are you seeing and hearing in your clients, Catherine, right now? How are they reacting to this crisis? And for those that maybe are embracing the challenge and stepping up, what's their psychology and their internal makeup and character that's allowing them to step into leading rather than caving?
Well, I'll give you an example of myself so that way I can keep confidentiality. So I've decided to host 3 live Zoom calls a day for 30 days to help the community.
Mm-hmm.
And those calls will be announced every morning, like a news feed. You go and find them, and if you're available, you get on them. And the purpose of me explaining that to you is how people do anything is how they do everything. So for me, the focus is the action of being positive. So David, I'm calling this Be Grateful from Your Home, because some of us are at home.
Yeah. You talked before in your opening response about the power of gratitude. And I know you do a lot of work too on gratitude outside of, you know, the sort of human psychology and development work that you do. Gratitude is really important, and it can really help reframe any challenge, I think, that we're going through. And I'm going to just share a real quick story with you and with those on the call tonight. So this is a true story. So, and about maybe 10 years ago, I was going home I'm from Ottawa originally, for those on the call. And I was going home to Ottawa to visit my my mom, my late mom. She was in a home. She had Alzheimer's pretty badly. And I was working that day in Whitby and teaching and coaching that day. And then I left and I drove along the 401 to Ottawa. It was in March, actually. And all of a sudden, I lost power in my car. Like, the car was running, but my speedometer went to 0 and windows wouldn't go up. And I'm going, oh man, what's going on? And, you know, my little monkey mind says, oh, maybe I'm being beamed up by aliens. Who knows? Maybe this is it. You know, I'm coming, Martha. Anyway, so long story short, Catherine, I had enough power to get me to stop in front of a bed and breakfast in just Brighton, Ontario, and just before Belleville, right? And I knock on the door and I say, I need a little help. My car just cacked out on me. And sure enough, I got a ride and a tow down to a garage. And they looked at the car and they said, oh, your battery's dead. So they put in a battery. And off I went. And as I got closer to Ottawa, my battery started to die. And I'm just giving thanks, like, holy cow. I stopped at a bed and breakfast, met these 2 guys, got a tow, went to the garage. Turns out the guy that owned the garage knew was a cousin of a friend of mine. Go figure. And then I get to outside of Ottawa, like Kemptville, and the car starts to die again. And I'm going, what the heck? I just got a new battery. What's going on, right? And I stop in front of a Drummond's gas bar. And I go in, I say, my car's dead. And, you know, do you know anybody that can help me? It was at night now, right? And the girl at the Drummond's gas bar, and by the way, I think it was the town hall, because it had an LCBO and a grocery store too, and a beer store, said, yeah, my boyfriend's really good at this. I'll call him. So her boyfriend comes in about a half hour, and I let my family know I'm going to be late, and yeah, I'm having this challenge, and yada, 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 right? And her boyfriend comes, and he installs 2 batteries to my battery and places them in my car. He said, that should last you to Ottawa. Well, it didn't quite last to Ottawa. I was about in Manotick, which is about 40 minutes away. And again, my car cacks out on me. The batteries are drained. And I stop in front of this guy's house and I knock on the door. It's Friday night. And I go, and I hope he answers. You know, I'm in his driveway. And he answers, and I smell the smell of pot. Someone's having a
Uh-oh.
good time on Friday night, not me. And anyway, so yeah, so I, I knock on the door and tell him my car is broken down, and I'm gonna have to leave it here and come back tomorrow. And is it okay to wait? And he said, yeah, no problem. And you know what? My neighbor is a mechanic. What are the chances? And this is already a longest trip I've ever had to Ottawa, because I think it was 10 o'clock at this point at night. And sure enough, I leave the car there. Next day, I speak to his neighbor. He's a mechanic. He says, oh, yeah, it's your alternator. Okay, what's the price? All right, I'll give you my credit card, whatever, and fix it, go ahead. And I got a ride. I had to get picked up by my sister and her friend, and I got a ride home. And the next day, I got a ride back out. Thankfully, it wasn't that far. And yeah, and my car got fixed for a pretty reasonable price. So I could have been really bummed out, but I was so grateful for every freaking bit of help and experience. It was like I was blessed. Like I was totally protected. So talk to me about gratitude and how that can transcend our feelings and emotions when
Thank you. And
yeah, in times.
yeah, that's a great story, David. I agree with you. You could have been bummed out and you could have had a different result, and you would have perhaps not be telling the story like you just did. So gratitude. I'm going to talk about good old fashioned book and a pen. So I'm going to share one of the strategies. And it's a known fact that if you write, it comes through. If you took a pen and a book and a pad, napkin, I'm Sicilian, we write on anything, and you write the 5 things that you're grateful for, whether you do that at the end of the day or during the course of the day or every time you eat or when you work out, you decide when you're going to write in detail. Write something that you're truly grateful for. Not, I'm grateful for my life, the sun is fantastic. Not to say you shouldn't be grateful for that, but in detail. I'm grateful that David Cohen invited me to be a guest on his show for the very first time. And I'm grateful that I had an opportunity to talk about gratitude because it really lifts me up. And David told me a story that I'll never forget. And I'm so glad you write this in detail.
Yeah, or whatever you're grateful for, right?
Well, I'm giving you an example of what I'm grateful for and what I would write. So that was a real live example. So in giving you that example and writing it, and then finishing all 5 and reading it, this becomes powerful. It changes the attitude and the vibration, because most people have an agenda on what they're going to say and what they're going to say next, as opposed to perhaps being in the moment. So when we're in gratitude, that's where we are. We have put on the wetsuit and we've gone deep diving into gratitude, and we're focusing on that. And if we're not in gratitude, and we know that there are people in our life that we sometimes say, how do they do it? But speak to those people and they will tell you it could be worse. And I am grateful for so many things. And how does that change or affect business, was your question? Well, when you speak to people, you'll know. You'll see the signs. It's like they may not be wearing a t-shirt, but you'll know when someone is grateful. You'll know when someone is in gratitude, and you'll know when someone isn't. It's not to judge, but if you wanted to be a steward of gratitude, then perhaps you would be able to share something with them or ask them, what are you grateful for today? Because if you ask someone the question, it gives them a chance to think about it. Maybe nobody asked Grant or Pablo or Linda or Dave or you today, what are you grateful for? And by asking you, it puts you into the moment. And then once you get into that headspace, it changes the vibration.
Right. So how can we start to realign and connect with our purpose, maybe a new purpose in this time, right? Maybe we have to amp up our why. How do we begin to connect to our purpose, develop it, and tap in and develop a compelling why and a compelling purpose moving forward in these really challenging, very good these new times, right?
Well, that's a good question. There are two different parts to that. How do we tap into our core purpose? That takes work. So
Mm.
your core purpose, our core purpose is not an answer. It's a mission. It's a mission of discovery and understanding what one's true core purpose is. There are courses on that. There are specialists who
How did you get to it then in 2014? What did you do to get to it?
it took me 50 years to get to that. I work on it constantly. It is a constant work in progress.
So where
It
are you
is
at
a
now?
mission.
What's your purpose and mission now?
It doesn't change. It's
What is?
I would be happy to read it to you, David, if you want to know. I
Sure.
have it all. I have it all written out.
Yeah, sure.
Well, okay, give me a moment.
And how does it impact you and your business and get you out of bed?
Well, I can read it to you first.
Yeah, sure.
And I wrote it to myself, and I just want to let you know.
Oh, okay. That's a little long.
So what?
Close.
Okay. Well, David, it takes 5 minutes to read, but I will tell you if you want to hear it, I'll send you a link to it because I was asked.
Can
Now,
you kind of give us a Coles Notes version?
no, I would prefer that you read the whole thing. It took me 50 years to put that together. And after working on it for 50 years because I'm going to be 62.
Send to it. Like what's a key deliverable?
I'd like to read it. I think it'd be worthwhile reading.
Okay.
Okay.
Not right now. Whenever works for you.
I don't post it, but I will be happy to read it to you. It is 50 years of work. I'll be happy to read it to you. And there's a link where you can hear it. So I was asked to read it in 2014, and that was recorded on a website which is public, and I can send you the link to that reading. So it's my pleasure to do that.
That's fine. We don't have to read it tonight. I can read
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. I'll send you the link, and you can hear it because it takes 5 minutes to listen to it, and it is 50 years of my work. And it is something that requires really, it requires 5 minutes of time because it took me 5 decades to put it together. So what does that mean in terms of you tap into, how do you develop your core purpose and your why? You work at it. You find the right place, the right time, and you keep doing it. And you don't give up. And when you do have a recipient, someone that will listen. In 2014, I was asked to read this, and I barely got through it. And I have only read it one other time. And I read that one other time in front of 12 women. So that was the only time I did it live.
And what was the?
And
when you read it live in front of the 12 women, how did they respond to you?
They all cried.
Yeah.
That's right.
And they're all my close friends.
Wow.
So when you do decide what it is that you want to do with your life, you sit down and you think about it. And it may change because obviously life changes. Whatever your core purpose is, you will tap into it. There are exercises. I worked for 11 years with a mentor to perfect the exercises of getting down to my core purpose. And you'll talk to people who are in the business of psychology and in the business of personal growth. First of all, it's an industry. It's a business. So it's not, something you just go and do, like I'll put on skis and I'll ski. You can't do that either usually, right? I mean, you might be a natural, but it still requires work for that. And how you receive things is how you get them. You can recognize in people the openness. And if you come across a block or a brick or some glitch in the energy, I would encourage you to go back into yourself and find the goodness in what you just came across or came up so that you can wish that person well. So the core purpose of yourself would be to be at peace with yourself And there are people that cannot be at peace with themselves. And regardless, working on ourselves and knowing where we stand, no one can shake you or shake your foundation. So if you are a strong pillar of strength, if you are a steward of gratitude, if whatever it is that you stand for, then someone can count on you no matter what. And you can count on yourself. And that's probably the most important thing. And your question is, how does it relate to business? When you speak to people in business, you will know when you speak to them. Not if they have money or they drive a nice car, not if they go on nice trips or have a big house. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the integrity and the authenticity of someone in times of happiness, in times of need, in times of help. Did you ever see someone who has nothing going and giving things away? Do you say, how did you do that? You yourself, because there are people that are tapped into exactly what they need to have and be. And their value system is obviously different. We all have different value systems, and they can do what they do because they are at peace.
So where does trust come into it? Because I think there's an element of trust that has to be at play in terms of having a purpose and a compelling why. Because you have to at times trust that by being in gratitude, by giving of yourself, by sharing your true gifts, by giving freely, that your needs are going to be taken care of. There's a nice story today of somebody who shared how an older woman was in a grocery store in England, and the shelves are empty there too. So they've gone through the same thing we've seen last week, right? And they said the woman was just, this older woman was looking for bread, and the other woman said, "Here, take mine." And that's a parable out of the Bible, as well. So how does having that trust and that faith help us to connect to that deeper purpose in our why?
My mother always taught me never to talk about sex, religion, or politics, but if you want me to talk about it, go ahead.
I asked you about trust.
It's a joke. It's a joke, David. Yeah. So it's okay. I'm talking about religion.
But if you want to talk about sex, that's for another time.
No, we're not. It's off. My mother told me not to do that. But the faith that we have is all within us. We cannot question our own belief system. It's not even up for discussion. What we believe and how we believe that, it's up to us. We trust ourselves or we don't. We're open. That's right, Paulo. Thank you. You're open or you're not. If you don't trust yourself, there's no discussion to talk about.
What about trusting
how you trust
the process of life?
That's all within us.
Okay.
That is all within our own personal, right here, that shortest distance between our two ears. And some people go through life and they have ups and downs with that. They get closer to their belief and sometimes they step away from it for one reason or another. But the true belief system is in our own self. You know, Bob Berg and John David Mann, the Go-Givers, and you know, Jim Rohn. You also know about all these wonderful writers that talk about if you are not giving to someone else, if you are not helping someone else achieve their goal, then you are not doing anything. It's not about what's in it for the person, for me. It's about truly helping someone else first. And as hard as that is for some people to understand, read The Go-Giver. It's a simple read. It's very easy. Think about giving to someone first. Don't worry about if we're going to eat. Don't worry about that, because that's not going to get us anywhere. Helping someone get to their goal, teaching someone, giving them what they need is far more productive than sitting and thinking how we are going to acquire, because that will not sustain us. Now, that might be a very difficult concept and you might want to debate it, and I'm happy to. I'm happy to talk about it, because we'll go back and think about in times of your life when you were giving and when you were taking, and tell me what sustained you through those moments when you truly have to dig deep in and look for that faith and that trust that you're talking about. Think about a moment in time. Let's take 15 seconds. Think about a moment in time when you truly had to get through something and it was difficult. And think about how you felt. You needed to believe in yourself. And think if someone came by and helped you. And think about how did it help? And how did they do it? At the time, you may not have realized what you realize right now. It could have been a time when the car broke down. It could have been a tragedy when someone passed away. There are so many things in life. I don't want to bring that up. But just think about a time. It could be simple. It could have been a time when you were hungry and just didn't have money for food that day. Whatever the reason, your $1 million was locked up in your bank account and you just couldn't access it, right? We never know why somebody has their hand out. We never know why somebody needs something. There's no judgment. It could be one of those things. And think about how you believed in yourself, that you would be able to take that next breath, that you would be able to take the next step. And when you did, there was someone somewhere around the corner that was there to help. The belief system that I'm talking about is the one that is within us. I hope I'm answering your question, but it is very personal, our belief system.
There was a lot of gold in that. I hope everybody got that. I'm going to open the line for questions because we've got about 9 minutes left in our chat with Catherine. Any questions? Anybody want to ask?
Can I ask a question?
Yes, Grant, please.
Thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you.
I'm grateful for that. I guess, you've talked a little bit about this, having faith in yourself and that kind of thing, but what if you're still stuck in the past of kind of self-judgment and your parents' judgment, and you can't find that inner strength? Can you tell me how you kind of get over the hump?
Right. Is your name Grant? It's Grant, right?
Yes.
That's what it says. Okay, great. I want to make sure. Grant, thank you. Grant, to let go, to truly let go is some work that we can do. It's something that we can work on. And letting go means accepting. And there are some amazing exercises and amazing people in life that can work with this scenario of letting go. Because we get impressed at very young ages. We're carrying these thoughts probably from many years ago. However old you are now, I guarantee you're carrying them for decades. So letting go isn't something that we just say, get over it. It's not that. It's letting go. It's a process. And if there's work there to be done, then absolutely make that one of your personal growth goals, to let go, to get out of that. And if you're aware that you want to get out of something, there are difficult times, and some of these things are harder than others. But I'm going to give you a simple exercise. Breathe. Truly breathe and learn what breathing means. And sit and breathe with yourself. And as you let yourself bring in oxygen and release the negativity, if this is one of your personal growth goals, to let go so you can move on, there are steps for that. And I'd be happy to talk to you about it in more depth and detail.
What about the practice of forgiveness too, in terms of letting go?
Well, I'll tell you a funny story. My husband and I are married for 33 years. We've been divorced for 16 and a half years, and we got back together after 11. I'm married 5 times. He's married 3. We married each other 3 times. Let me tell you what forgiveness is. Forgiveness is being divorced for 16 and a half years and getting remarried again. That's forgiveness. And smiling and being happy. So what is that? It's all within us. It's within how you live at the moment. Are you living in this exact moment right now? We have this cute little thing that we tell each other. I will not believe anything unless you absolutely tell me to my face in communication where we agree to communicate that that's how it is. That means you're off the hook if I walk in the house and you're doing something. I won't believe it unless you sit me down and you talk to me and have an open communication. So belief is the understanding and the communication that you have with that person. Forgiveness, it's within us. And you can work on that. We can work on that. I didn't know when I was born that I would be able to forgive like this. I didn't understand the depth of what would happen in my life. I didn't understand that at 10 or 20 or 18 or 30, that I would have to be able to go through 16 and a half years and say, no matter what, I love you till the end of the world, because none of that matters. I didn't know that. But as I lived life, it came up as an experience and I worked through it. And it wasn't easy because, again, these are things that take time. And we need to remember, here's the point of this story. Every day for 16 and a half years, I waited for him to come back for me. Every single day, I told myself he will be back. Now, you might think 16 and a half years is a long time, but every day it was a brand new day. And every day I told myself that. Today's the day. Today is the day. 16 and a half years later, that was the day. And that's the moment that I stayed in, the future. I am enjoying a wonderful life with my husband. That's where I was at.
So how
Forgiveness happened naturally.
important is it for us now to sort of think beyond the now of everything that's going on, and maybe even in Grant's case in terms of forgiveness, to embrace a compelling future? How would embracing a compelling future help us all? But maybe in Grant's quest to to let go of the story around his parents, or to forgive them. How does having maybe seeing that positive outcome?
So Grant, I won't, go ahead, Grant.
I just want to say, I see what's happening now in our life with the pandemic as a continuation of my childhood.
And so my comment was, I'm not going to comment on Grant because we don't have enough information to comment on Grant. And thank you, Grant. And that's a conversation we have with people. We don't comment unless we have an open communication about it.
Okay. So
yeah, sorry. I just suggest it's a divorced family, divorced single mother household kind of thing.
Yeah, I gave that to my daughter too. She still thanks me for it. So
having on the now, how important is that?
Think about, okay, so this is a simple exercise. Think about I am statements, affirmations. Affirmations are a wonderful thing. They're simple, they're easy. I am. When you put yourself, not I am going to be, I am enjoying. David, you lost 40 pounds. I heard you say that on your webinar, on your live. I am enjoying my healthy body. Not I am going to lose 5 more pounds. I am healthy and strong. When we talk about affirmations, I am a loving wife. I am enjoying a happy, healthy marriage. Giving you examples. It puts you in that moment as if it already happened. Maybe some of those things have already happened, but maybe they haven't. But the affirmation of that, when you tell yourself, see, the subconscious mind cannot differentiate. So when you tell your subconscious mind, I am financially free, you say, well, look at that pile of bills. I'm thinking about, I got to pay the car and I got to pay the electric and what do I do about the food? And is it really that expensive? Don't go there. Just go to the I am. The subconscious mind will bring that to you. So how do you do that? You practice. It's like doing bicep curls. It's like getting on the bike. It's like running. You practice it. And when you fall off, you keep doing it. And if it's a common practice, you'll do it every day. Somebody here has worked out. I mean, I just was on my Bowflex bench with my weights. I had 2 10-pound dumbbells. And I said, I'm going to have 6 minutes and I'm going to go and I'm going to sit on the bench for 6 minutes and I'm going to do some tricep and I'm going to do some chest press incline. Okay. I do that. When I used to own a gym. When I have 10 minutes, I go and I sit on the bench and I work out because it clears my head. I believe that it works for me. And guess what? I see the results. You believe, you put yourself in that tense as if it's already happened. And it will happen because everybody here looks like they work out. Everybody looks like they're in good shape here. So I don't know. I can't see the two that don't have. Yeah. All right. Well, you look like you've picked up a dumbbell once. Paulo, say that again, Paulo.
Rounds of shape.
Okay.
Rounds of shape. I've lost 160 pounds in 3 years, so I got 40, 50 to go.
Hmm. So hopefully I'm answering your question, David. You tell me if I am.
We have a few moments left. I'm waiting for
Okay.
Victoria. So I want to get to a couple more questions with you.
Okay.
I think, you know, we need good leadership right now in business and government, and you know, even, you know, the old church state thing. I'm not getting into religion, but we need good leadership. So what is, in your estimation, what's the makeup of a good leader, and a good leader that's going to step up to the plate in times of crisis that we're in now, and have that confidence to make the change, pivot, or rally others? What are some of the, you know, characteristics? And our next guest is here, so we'll ask a couple more questions, and then we'll wrap our discussion. But stay on with us. So what do you think good leadership looks like?
Well, you know that you say if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, hi Victoria, you can go with a group. So a good leader has a team. You're surrounded by people. A good leader inspires others to be their best. A good leader lets others lead. So if you're looking for a leader, look at yourself and see if there's somebody encouraging you to take the torch, because we are our own leaders. If our quest is to find the person to tell us what to do, I say look within yourself, because we truly are all capable of doing exactly that. If you're looking to pay someone because the position of leader is open in your corporation, then write out the prerequisites of what you want and ask. Are you 5'10"? Do you weigh 130 pounds? Do you ask them what the requirements are? But the true leader is within each and every one of us. Some of us can do it better than others, but some of us have been doing it longer. Allow someone to lead and see what they do. But if someone is overbearing or overpowering them and doesn't give them a chance, then how will we know?
Right. I'm going to end our discussion, and I'm going to throw over to Victoria. I love the quote that one needs to ask themselves in moments of crisis. And it's this question, and it's like, who am I going to be in the heat of the moment? So is this part of like a way to tap into your why and purpose and leading? And is it really about you deciding moment to moment as to how am I going to show up today?
Well, I'm not sure about the heat of the moment question, but it made me think about, you know, the heat of the moment could be something different for each and every one of us. So remember, I had that 16-and-a-half-year divorce. You know, the heat of the moment could be very passionate in my perception. So the heat of the moment is I am who I am at all times, regardless. I show up as me. I'm authentic. And if somebody is authentic, then they show up the same, no matter what. You will see that. And tapping into your why and the questions around that, it is lifelong learners that will tell you we are never done learning. There is something to learn from everyone. There isn't someone who has all of the answers. So I'm learning so much from all of you tonight and listening to your questions. I'm here absorbing what it is that you have to offer to me, observing your behavior and the way you ask the questions and the way that you're engaged and the way that you show up with me. And that teaches me an awful lot. So I believe that when we are true to ourselves, then we are surrounded by people who are true to themselves.
Okay. I'm going to throw to our next guest. So are you okay to stay with us, Catherine?
I'd love to. Thanks for the invitation.
We'll probably wrap up.
Thank you, Catherine.
David?
Yeah, you have another
You're
question?
welcome.
David, can you hear me?
So I'm going to go to our next guest. Oh, Dave, do you have a question?
Yeah, I got to go at 9. So I have one comment. Thank you, Catherine, for your sharing. About you were talking about leading through crisis. There is a virtual leadership summit on March 22nd to 24th at 12 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time online. by John C. Maxwell. He's talking about this in the next couple of days. So it's on LinkedIn. You can search for it. So I think that was worthwhile to join and listen and learn something.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks for sharing that, man. And Catherine, thanks for doing this part. Don't
welcome.
anyone. Our next guest is the lovely Victoria Lorient-Davis. She provides brief and long-term transformational holistic psychotherapy, motivation and inspiration, life coaching, parts integration therapy, stress reduction, new decision therapy, couples therapy, individual therapy, polarity therapy, craniosacral, Reiki, trauma unwinding therapy. Victoria's created tools to facilitate profound self-awareness and deep relaxation. A double-guided meditation set called As Above, So Below Visual Cues, in which to take the listener on a sensorial healing meditation.
You're cutting out, Dave.
She's also written 2 books. She's also written 2 books.
David, you're cutting out. It was hard to hear. David, you're cutting out.
Written 2 books that are companion texts to the work she does. Her first book, Find Yourself Culture, Moving from Depression to Anxiety, which dovetails nicely into our conversation we're about to have. And her second book, Connecting, Rewire Your Relationship Culture. So I want to welcome Victoria Lorient-Davis. Welcome to.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi, everybody.
So
hey there. Firstly, it's not moving from depression to anxiety. It's moving from depression and anxiety to monumental self-acceptance, because I don't want to mislead anyone. We're not moving from depression to anxiety.
Okay. Yes.
That's funny.
I read that wrong. All right. So welcome. So we're shifting the focus now to dealing with anxiety and managing our fear, which is like ramped up for a lot of us.
Yeah.
Even online today, today, I don't know, I made a decision today to cut back on my social media consumption, and I'm not watching like 5 minutes of the news, and that's it. And I'm feeding my mind with positive. So, but I've seen quite a few posts of people still dealing with a lot of fear and anxiety. And in this time of so much energy and feelings and emotions swirling all around us, out in people, people fighting over toilet paper at the grocery store. I mean, really? What can we do to perhaps collect ourselves, reframe what's happening to us on the outside, and adjust the emotional response on the inside?
Yeah. Well, I don't think that we're going to get away without the feelings of anxiety. I think that that's not necessarily realistic. I mean, I've been doing all week. I've been doing a ton of Zoom therapy, and interestingly enough, there's a sort of a flip. A lot of people who experience anxiety on a regular basis are kind of relaxed during this time, because they're very grateful that they get to stay home and kind of be on their own, and they get to sort of have less obligations outside of their cocoon. And a lot of people who are extroverted are really experiencing some of this depression and future worrying and catastrophizing and terrorizing thoughts. So I would say we're not going to get away without feeling this is an unprecedented experience that is global. And I think we need to honor the fact that we're still new in the information of how this is all affecting us. So firstly, I would say name our feelings. Name what you're feeling on a regular basis. Like, call it, I'm feeling this, I'm feeling this. And that's the number one thing. I find that when we name things, we tend to be able to dissolve them a little better. On the other hand, I would like people to know that they can, through awareness, but awareness alone can do nothing. We got to disrupt. In other words, not go down the rabbit hole. Mm-hmm. And so what I say to people is, there's a hurricane going on, and you can either be in the hurricane or you can observe a hurricane and really just keep watching that there's a hurricane. And as opposed to being a part of the hurricane, you're observing it. And in that moment of observing it, you're naming your feelings, you're becoming aware of your feelings and your emotions, and then you're disrupting so that you're not feeding the story that may not be true, because any story we have about the future is not necessarily a true story. It may be just our fears about the future. So people are saying to me, how's this ever going to end, and what's going to happen, and does this mean that we're going to be, more and more controlled? I had someone say more and more controlled by the government, more and more, lockdown, and more, how is this going to, I'm like, let's just take what's going on today. Let's just dial it back, and let's look at the realities of your life today. Let's see what the future brings, one step at a time. So it's all about slowing down the breathing, slowing down our mind states, calming the story so that it's not so encompassing of future unknowns, and then work to disrupt the false story we're telling ourselves and replace it, because you're trying to replace, get new neural pathways going on, replace it with some, really reasonable truths about the moment. Truths about the moment is, I've got a roof over my head. I've got food today. I'm okay this week. Just calming bringing and nurturing and cultivating the gentler story, the gentler conversation. I
What
think.
is fear and anxiety really about? Where does it come from?
Well, that's a big question, because we can talk about the biochemistry, we can talk about circumstances, we can talk about the habituation of thinking and the neural pathways. Anxiety often is a sort of genetic thing, but not always. Can be very circumstantial. It can be trauma related. Our limbic system, which is our fight, flight, freeze system, which has a little gland in there called the amygdala, is on, sort of locked on the on position, and sort of the nervous system is really preparing for war and pandemics. I mean, I'm not laughing, but it's so interesting. It's like, this is exactly what the limbic system is designed to freaking focus on, which is coping with some big crazy events. But even in the big crazy events, we do have the power through the breath, through slowing down the breath, through exposing ourselves to different ways of looking at things, through changing our habituated fear thoughts. And we can turn on the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the relaxation response. And we do have the power to do that. And that's what's beautiful. That's we can do that.
And what about the idea of like just making friends with it, making them friends and really loving our fear and anxiety, because it's really there to also protect us and teach us something. What do you see in your patients? What is having fear about the situation and anxiety about, how does that help us?
So I'm not a doctor, so they're not patients, they're clients.
Clients,
Just
okay.
need to just correct that a tiny bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, my clients would look at me like I have 5 heads if I said, make friends with your fear and depression. They're like, and anxiety, but they'll be like, you're freaking nuts. So initially, that's not a concept I'm going to be introducing,
Okay.
but I am going to be introducing the notion of, it's like the Wizard of Oz, where you pull back the curtain and go, oh, you're not a freaking crazy monster. You're just some scary old guy's voice, or some old woman's voice, or young child's freaked out concept, right? Whatever. The point is that when it's not so much making friends. Eventually we become friends with it because it teaches us so much. But initially, that initial contact is really amazingly this notion of what's really here. Really kind of having the courage to go, what's actually happening here? And usually it's, a terrorized 7-year-old part of us that is telling us a really scary story, or so that's initially. So making some sort of connection with it is important, David, exactly what you're saying. And then eventually you start to go, okay, what do you hear? What are you trying to teach me or tell me or show me or bring me in this moment? And, often it's protection, most common now, protection, or a sense of understanding of what's happening. There's various ways that stuff is in our life. But essentially, when we start to have a dialogue with it, and I do a lot of visualization, my website's called Visualization Works because I work with visualization a lot, where we're actually speaking and dialoguing with the parts of us that are seemingly disenfranchised and sort of trying to just get our attention. And so we bring it into the fold and go, talk to me. And usually we are able to transform that scary part. And that part of us will actually bring us, oh, what I'm really trying to do when I'm bullying you, what I'm really trying to do when I'm scaring you is I'm really trying to protect you or make you better or make you more efficient or whatever it may be. And clean, my husband arrived today with some stuff. I said, did you clean it with the Lysol wipes? And he's like, don't freak out, stop freaking out, and I'm like, I know, but I'm freaked out. It's like, so we all calm down. It's like, okay, it's clean, but it's like, really, it's like, why are you so freaked out? It's like, well, I'm just trying to protect us. And then he's like, okay. So that's a lot of a sort of a micro story of how a lot of anxiety gets promoted in our beings.
How about having
Long story short.
What about an attitude of curiosity about it?
I mean, I love it. I mean, all of this is about being curious about what's actually happening. But I'm very cautious to not dishonor what we're really feeling by jumping to the make friends with it, be curious about it. No, initially it's like, let's really honor it first. Let's really actually hear it, and then we can transform it.
Yeah, because we can't be going beyond the fear and anxiety and do an emotional bypass here.
That's really the point. I don't want people to emotionally bypass. It doesn't work. You just keep doing it again and again and again. Just like, it's like there's no way out. There's no way around the mountain. I often say it's through the mountain that we gather the tools to get to the other side, and then the other side is where all the relief comes from.
So, what are some good strategies to sort of, get us through?
Well, number one, the first thing I would say is, you're not alone. That's the first thing. You're not alone. Even if you feel alone, you're not alone. There's a lot of resources to reach out and, gather the resources. And if you can't get to, let's say, a therapist, there's free, there's free support that you can access through 12-step groups. There's even if you're not an addict, there's Adult Children of Alcoholics, there's Codependents Anonymous, there's various free ways to access support. So you're not alone. Seek out support. Limit news. You obviously need information, but limit how much you consume and limit where you consume that news from. Sorry, I don't mean to be passionate about that one, but that's a huge one. Limit where. I say make friends with the science. All my clients this week, it's about the news. I'm like, okay, listen to the scientists, become a science nerd, study the stats, don't just take, all the information that's sort of distilled for us and say, here, do this. No, study the science, study the statistics, be an empowered consumer of information, I feel. And also, I'm sure everyone talks about this, but it's the truth. It's the way to train the mind. Meditate, slow the breath effing down first. Slow the breath. That's so huge.
And you can do that in your car. I take deep.
Do that anywhere, yeah.
And I hold on to it, and then I let go. If I'm feeling, that fight or flight feeling.
Breathe, baby, breathe.
Yeah.
Cold showers, 10 massive breaths before shower.
Yeah.
Like 10. That hot Wim Hof method. Just really breathe. Fill your lungs. Let go, and then turn on that freaking cold water and hang in there and breathe.
So meditate.
Changes everything. Really
change your routine, maybe.
What's that?
Not maybe change your routine. Meditate. So I'm hearing meditate, breath work, practice.
Reach out. Don't be alone. Reach out. Get support.
None of us are alone. The whole world's in this together.
Well, let's just do all this together. I mean, we're on Facebook Lives.
Yeah.
I've got a group that's free called Courageous Conversations. It's free. It's support. Reach out to you. Reach out.
Yeah.
Reach out. Don't be alone.
Right.
That's a huge one. Breathe, and be a wise consumer of information.
Yeah.
Be a wise consumer of information. Do not buy into the fear mongering, but be smart. This is important as well.
Right. And today I decided I turned off my computer.
Why? We're on your computer now. What's happening?
I didn't want to tap into the Facebook all day long.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely.
And I did the cleaning and I had jazz on all day, and
oh, that's nice.
And 3-5 minutes of news, you know, really to get the weather.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and it's funny, I was talking to a friend and I said, I got to just slow my game down and get back into a new rhythm because I'm in a different rhythm. I'm not going out to see clients. My last workshop was 2 workshops last Wednesday. I'm not doing that. So I now have to embrace a new rhythm.
Yeah.
You know?
If I could suggest also, I
Yeah.
think nature and exercise are really
Oh,
good.
big time.
Yes.
Big time.
Thanks, Grant.
Nature, exercise is so, it's a game changer. When my gym closed in my condo, I was like, "Ugh."
You know.
So we started to do a lot of walking and a lot of movement outside to just, and movement in the apartment. Absolutely.
Yeah,
To just,
you still have
to
walking clubs. You just walk, you keep your distance.
keep your distance.
Personally, I think it's bullshit, but anyway, that's my fear. That's my,
What's bullshit?
the social distancing. You know, it's like,
Consume some science, consume the science,
I will.
because there'll be some information there for you about the social distancing and the power of flattening and flattening the curve. That's a very important piece of this, of making this not last as long, by
Yeah.
the way.
Yeah. Okay.
Just let me be very clear on that. And I am not in any way a buyer of, you know, news media, but I'm into science, and social distancing is not a bad thing. It's actually very, very important for a time, and wash our hands, obviously.
Right. And we should call it physical distancing and still be social. So a couple last questions. Fear begets fear too. So here we are, we're a week into this, I guess into the really, when it really became a crisis, which was last week. And only on Monday, they decided to impose, make it a state of emergency here in Ontario. So here we are, we're a week into it. The toilet paper run is come and gone. And guess what? The stores are open. Toilet paper is back in stock. We're still standing. What's your take on that herd mentality response to what we've seen happen, and how that can also be a tipping point to bringing up fear and anxiety?
So I think you're asking, you know, how come people, you know, operate in groups, and because they're safe. I think that some people have been telling me this week, it's like, you know, well, everyone else is doing it, so I don't want to miss out. It's like there's this safety in numbers concept where we're like, if everyone's doing it, I should do it. And the independent thought goes out the window. And I think independent thought is crucial to this time. You know, obviously being mindful of our community. So it's not, you know, community is important, but independent thought within that. But also, I have found that people have said to me, I just feel like if I didn't go, this is one person said to me, if I didn't go to Costco and fill my cart full of stuff, that I would somehow fear the future, I would not have access to it. So scarcity thinking. Some scarcity, you know, like I'm not going to have it. And there's this fear. And all along, I said to my family, I said, listen, we're not doing that. We're getting a little bit. And I know that they're not going to be closing groceries and grocery stores. It's just, we're not doing that. Let's just slow down. Let's just slow the heck down on everything and get what you need. But I really want to tell you that I don't condemn people for doing it, even though I know it hasn't been a good thing, because I really have compassion. That's another piece. I have self-compassion is important in all of this, but I have compassion for people's fears. We have to go through the hump of this fearful time, but then we got to get to the other side and understand that the fear behavior is going to be the crippler of transformation. So, you know, honor the fear, but then let's just get past it and start to think in really intelligent ways about all of this. And
Yeah.
I know that people are starting to change.
Yeah, and that was our conversation with Catherine, which was about, you know, tapping into your why to get you and propel you forward into action. One last
Great.
question, Victoria, and that's one way to get beyond fear is to get outside of ourselves and give back.
Sorry, say that again.
One way to get out beyond our fear is to
Is-
get outside of ourselves and give back, sharing,
Absolutely.
caring,
Share generously
breaking
your tools, your wisdom, your leadership,
help
your absolute. That's why we're doing, like, I have to tell you, I very transparently, I've been off and on crying through all of this. I've been off and on grieving and freaking out. But what has stopped me from really going down that rabbit hole, to be honest with you, is I get on a live and I, talk to people, and we share, and we're in community. And even though I feel teary as I'm saying this, I really feel like I helped working with my clients. Thank goodness for Zoom and for online platforms. And thank goodness that we can do Facebook Lives. And thank goodness I love computers and technology. That's a fortuitous. I'm not afraid of it at all. I love it, and that's what's getting me through it, is communing and connecting and giving and offering. That's what's getting me through it. Because if not, I think I'd sit in my condo and just start to slowly, no matter how much I've trained my mind, I would be like, oh my God, what's going to happen? So I'm grateful for these. I'm going to be doing an online summit coming up soon. Thank goodness for the online platforms, and lots of lives and lots of giving, because honestly, without that, I feel that that's the answer for me on so many levels. It's so helping me.
Yeah, and creating purpose too. Purpose to your life.
Meaning, purpose. Yes.
And Catherine, we talked about that, right? So we're going to wrap it up. If everybody go to the chat room. Dave gave the link to the John Maxwell Leadership Summit coming up, I think, this weekend. So you
Great.
Tap into that. Catherine, final thoughts, and where do we reach you, Catherine Rara,
Thank you. So I have a couple of websites. You can go to thebridgeempowers.com and leave me a message, thebridgeempowers with an S.com. That's one way. You can go to gratitudegirls.com and leave me a message there as well. And I have a Facebook group. You can look for me on Facebook, of course. But the group that I just started is called Be Grateful from Home. And I'm looking to have an instructor once a day to come and talk for 5 minutes about health, mental health, and physical health. So if anybody, Victoria, if you'd like to, David,
sure.
Grant, Paulo, please come on to the group. Just ask to be a member. Be Grateful from Home. And we're live 3 times a day. And you can Google me, of course, but I ask David how to get in touch with me. So thank you so much.
If you're on Instagram, I'd love to connect with everybody on Instagram and on Facebook and all those places.
Absolutely. Same thing. And LinkedIn. So I'll do the same. Thank you so much, David.
Thanks. And Victoria, you're at visualizationworks.com.
Yeah, that's my website. And, my group, which is just like a support group, Facebook support group, sharing courage, courageousness, sharing bravery, sharing fear and ways out of it. And if anyone's on Instagram, my handle is, what is everybody's handle? Victoria.
I don't even know. I'm on it, but I'm not on it.
Are you? Oh.
No, you're active on all these social media sites, amen?
What's that?
My friend Paolo, who's here.
Oh, Paolo, yeah.
Is active on these. And your Facebook group is Courageous Conversations with Victoria Lorient Fabish.
That's right.
Yeah, okay.
And I love everyone to connect.
Yeah.
David, I forgot to mention b-u.network, my podcast. Oh my goodness,
right.
please go there. b-u.network.
b-u.network. All right. I want to
thank you,
Grant, Paolo. I know Dave had to leave, and Linda, I think, her connection went funky.
Thank you.
She's
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Have a beautiful night, and yeah, reach out and get the support, and we're not in this alone. Together we'll be better.